Entertain a motion to approve the minutes to the June 25th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Look at the 29th meeting. Nothing but the end of the month stuff.
I'd move to approve.
I will second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Jude and Kathy are here. Did you guys have anything further for us, or are you here for questions, or?
I'm here, just if you had questions. I wasn't here last Monday, so I don't know if you had some questions for me.
I was just wondering, maybe if you have a time frame in order to make any type of decision. The reason why I'm asking is that we know our boiler probably something needs to be done. And we're gonna have to make plans.
What kind of time frame are you looking at to get that done and by the time we approve it?
I don't know, I'll have to call Mr. Malcoat. I don't know what the time frame is. I just know we kind of did an experimental thing that happened to work that sealed some issues that we had inside the boiler, but we're just very concerned about this coming winter.
It's,
It has to be done before winter. If you're gonna do it, it
That's,
has to be done
yeah,
before winter.
I mean, that's what we're thinking.
Can installation be done during school time?
I believe so. I mean, they can work through school. I
I think
mean, the perfect time would be summer, but
years ago, I was involved in replacing one of them, and I think we did it during the school.
yeah.
Everything went in and out the gym door.
We
There.
We did that. The high school had a facility during the school.
I have a board meeting tonight, so I'm the first Monday of the month, so just kind of wondering what a time frame would look like to report back to the board.
I did ask the county clerk to provide data on the evaluations for outlying areas of this district. I am still really concerned about providing money for people that are paying taxes to those school districts that are outside of Lincoln County. That, I am wrestling with that.
Good.
I would also say that I would have a little trouble voting for something built in Russell County,
Good.
being the storm shelter. That would
Okay.
that would kind of, I think that'd be stretching. Even though it's going to protect some Lincoln counties, the benefit would be for Russell County and the city of Louis.
Okay.
In answer to Kathy's storm shelter, I think a community storm shelter would be better. I absolutely think that is ridiculous to build something and deny the public shelter. I don't know why FEMA's regulations are that way, but that, to me, I think we're building a structure in the county to protect people, but we're going to limit who we're going to protect. And of course, in the summertime, it'll protect no one, and that's one of our worst times of the year. So that I think enters into my decision whether to fund your capital outlay there. On the other hand, I would say that no learning can take place if the environment is poor, and I think the heating and air conditioning are issues that need to be addressed. And I guess I would be open to helping you with those areas.
I guess for me, I don't know who's gonna be responsible if we have a community shelter out there for opening it every time there's a storm and school's not in session. I think that, if FEMA's gonna pay the vast majority of them, which I understand what Mr. Wallace says about building out of county, but I think for me, it would depend on whether it's a grant match or whether we're building the whole thing. You know,
Are you talking for both of us?
either
Okay.
one, yeah. You know, a grant match, I could do that pretty easily,
Good.
but
So what I'm hearing is the other things though would be talking about boilers.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have any. Storm shelters, I think for me,
That's the-
either place,
That's the issue.
I believe, you know, I understand the need for the storm
Sure.
shelters. I just don't necessarily agree with what Mr. Wallace said about us footing the bill for a community one, where FEMA would foot the bill for one for the school. And I doubt if there's a storm and someone shows up there, I don't
They're
think
just
you
not
have the
gonna be there
security
checking.
people to keep them out.
Checking their
so-
ID to make sure they're
Yeah.
either a staff member.
So I think you know, yeah, it's not a community center, but you're not gonna turn somebody away at the door. So,
We went and visited Kinsley, and theirs is a community shelter, but it's attached to the high school. And they talked, in order to allow, to get it open, you work with, you know, your fire department, you work with your police. I mean, that's who they would have a key to it. They would be the ones that would have that information to get that early, you know, ability to have that unlocked. So we would probably follow something similar to what their model was, and it works very well. So,
What's the current procedure at the elementary school in Lucas?
At Lucas, we just, as far as storm, we use the inner rooms.
Just the classrooms?
Well, basically our restrooms. Because there's no windows, it's the inside rooms. Basically, I think we have four rooms that we can go to.
is there any place in there that you could change into a safe room?
No, we looked at that, yeah.
Terry,
And we're still, I'm sorry, we're still pursuing the grant.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, of course, yeah.
you've both already applied for the FEMA
Yes,
grant to see
yes.
where that goes.
Right.
And Terry, you were saying about a match funding. I guess it's my understanding that if you had liquid capital available, that you would be using that to do some of the current updates that are needed, like the boiler system before the weather changes, etc. So are we to understand that what is set aside in the capital outlay is pretty much already earmarked for regular repairs, and that doesn't include these kinds of changeovers where you're going to change out the air conditioning systems and the boiler systems?
our capital outlay, we glean about $370,000 a year. Our monthly bills, related to capital outlay, we earmark about $22,000. So you put pencil to paper, that leftover money this year, we did half the high school roof, and then the other half, we did a lease purchase. So that lease purchase money is also gonna come out of capital outlay. We always have things that happen. It's just, you have buildings like that, there's always things that break down. There's always things that need to be repaired. And to $370,000 isn't a lot of money when you're talking about, trying to invest in. We went ahead, the board went ahead and approved, Travis Schwartzberger, his company's going to retrofit the elementary. We're paying for that out of capital outlay. We're trying to do as much as we can. We just don't have $1 million to do the HVAC. To put a new boiler in that building, we did Mr. Malakote and did this study. It's not feasible.
Well,
Our
it's not
lines-
something you can necessarily do stage by stage. It's
Correct.
kind of a
It is.
one swap
And
deal.
if we do the HVAC, we have to do the windows because our windows are, they're 30 years old.
Well, your greatest heat loss in any structure is the windows.
Correct.
I mean, my years in the construction business, it's the only thing you could do to your house that would actually, over a period of time, pay for itself, is the windows. That's it. Anything else you did to it would never pay for itself, but the windows will, if you've got the old leaking windows, because with what energy costs have done through the years, you know, is the windows have come down, the energy costs have gone up, so.
And Jake probably can attest to this, the air quality in the buildings, I think Mr. Wallace said, when kids get sick in our building, the sickness sticks around for 4 to 6 weeks because our air quality, ventilation, you know, clean air intake is basically nil. So we feel like this will help the learning environment. And we do a great job keeping the building as clean as we can.
I think if you build a new building, there's codes as to the amount of air that has to be moved in and out of the building.
And that's what Mr. Malacote has engineered into this new HVAC. So.
I know at the hospital, it's tremendous.
I mean, that's
It flushes like every 20 minutes.
for us, that's the priority, is HVAC over temperature.
Has there been any other school districts approach county governments to fund, are you aware of that, to fund schools?
Other county,
But yeah,
not that I'm aware of, I think,
Didn't some of the districts out west
Yeah, I
benefit
called
greatly
Del
from the
Dennis.
wind farms?
I called Del-
Spearville,
Yeah.
I think they do.
Yeah.
I called Del Dennis and he said that, he didn't give me any names and I could get those names
Yeah.
for you, but Western Kansas
Yeah.
communities.
I think they kind of went to
That's how
that.
that's basically
How
their
they're
capital
doing it.
outlay is the wind farms.
I think Spearville was one of the first in the way, I remember when the wind farms went in, I know their school was getting X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how much.
I guess yesterday put this cost of this project in a little perspective. When someone is worth $150 million to play basketball.
Yeah.
And we're willing to fund something like that, and we're unable to fund $1.5 million to have air quality for our students, our young people whose health and future is dependent on it.
It's kind of skewed a little bit.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it is. It is. It
If
kind
I-
of puts things in perspective.
If
To me,
I-
$1.5 million is a lot of money. But when I look at it at $150 million for somebody to play basketball, it makes it look a little small.
I didn't
Or
get a
how many
vote on that.
stadiums have we helped build with federal money?
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't get a vote on that contract. I would have. I would vote on all of those.
well, I think
pro
there's
sports
several million
contracts.
going into a KU football stadium renovation, isn't there? And I mean, that's all been raised private, but we cannot, people will not pay taxes to improve the buildings. It's a sad commentary on our society, I'm
Or
afraid.
reduce education so that they can afford it.
Yeah.
I have a question for Dawn. It's been brought to my attention that some of the wind towers south of Sylvan are in the Wilson School District.
Not in Lincoln County, I don't think.
I think
Probably
they are.
that post rock.
But is that part of, I guess,
You don't go to you don't go all the way to the county line to the south.
no. Okay, so my question is, the contract that was just renewed was with the
Smoky Hill.
Smoky Hill. But the post rock one, when is that up?
Not for another,
4 years.
I think so, but hang on one second. Post Rock is up in 2021. That will be the last year we receive distribution.
And you're saying the towers that are currently contracted, where we're giving a percentage to the schools out of this contract, that's just in Smoky Hill, that's not,
Correct.
okay. Okay, I wasn't sure about how that worked.
So, yes, when Post Rock hopefully will come and approach us about continuing the pilot agreement after 2022, then depending on what they have said. And one thing to remember is Smoky Hill mandated the 35% to go to the school districts.
also under new ownership than it was with the prior
And there-
contract, correct?
It's had several.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think 3 times in the 10 years.
The current agreement is if they improve their, or if they would start replacing turbines, then they will go back to the original pilot amount. But as far as I know, they're not doing that yet.
They have several that aren't operating.
So it's built in that there's a 35% of the total that is to the school districts, and then we determined, or somebody determined that whichever towers were in whichever school district, that's the dollar amount that was divided.
The wind tower company said you will give 35% to the school, and it was up to us to decide how to disperse it. We thought maybe it was the fairest way to.
Have we
divide
given
it.
that first payment? Because this is the first year, right?
We
2009.
received, last year for phase 1 was the first payment.
52.5.
This year will be phase 1 and phase 2.
There aren't any phase 1 towers in
In,
291.
right, okay. So my question then to the school boards would be, what did you guys decide to budget for with that additional money?
I think they're gonna be voting tonight, I'll be able to tell you.
Okay.
I can let you know tomorrow, I can email you what the board decides to do that, but it's one of the projects that, I believe it's one of the projects we presented to you that I think they're gonna go ahead and do.
Meaning,
It's one of the 3 projects that we, in your presentation.
oh, to put it toward
Yes.
the capital improvement
Yes.
projects?
Yes,
My figures are,
D-299 won't receive anything until December
Of this year,
Maybe even January, just depending on when we get.
when that money,
But then they'll get a year longer
Yeah,
than,
then
depending on what they do after 20 years.
I guess my rough calculation is that we basically, to take care of environment issues, in 299, it'd be about 760,000. So that's kind of what I added up.
Yes,
And 298, right at 920,000 is where you're at. Which,
That's the HVAC at LES.
Are the FEMA grants yearly?
that's without the storm shelters at
I'm
each,
sorry?
correct?
that's right.
Are the FEMA grants yearly? I mean, do they?
I don't think so. Jacob Gray contacted me again this last week, and they're only when they have money.
Yeah.
They kind of let you know when they have money, and they had money this year, and we reached out to them, and they said last year, and they said, no, we don't have any money. Keep checking back with us, and then they got back
But you
to
can
us.
continue to apply, I guess is what I'm,
Yeah, we will.
but, I mean, if you get turned down, you can
Correct,
reapply.
yes,
Yep.
yes. And see, we've already applied with Dave Hansen, and we have already applied through Mitchell County, through that partnership. We applied for a grant along with the city before I got here, and it was turned down.
Don, what'd you say the balance in that wind tower is now?
Let me tell you
You're the
what
principal?
bank balance says.
The storm shelters, they used up as many ones from California.
They actually, it's a company by home.
Okay.
We gave them 2 presentations, one for the FEMA grant that we've already submitted, and it's a matching grant.
Jude,
Yes,
have you already received bids on these?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, like places where there's tornadoes.
Where are they from?
Shelters should be-
Yeah.
Glassman, the one we accepted from Glassman, company out of Hayes.
On the like the boiler
Yes.
system, okay.
Yes.
Okay, there's 5,662,314.93. $5,662,000. And I think we're almost done with the nursing home budget.
I was gonna say, how much of that had we paid from the 400 and whatever it ended up being, 70 or 70.
Passing at 231,140.
I guess I could support today 760,000 to 299 and 925,000 to 298. I could support that, and I would move that the wind tower web money that we authorized 760,000 to 299 and 925,000 to 298 to improve the air quality and the environment for the students.
Do I have a second? I will second to move it to discussion.
I wrote down that you said 760 and 920, but your motion was 760 and 925. I believe.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm
I
just
should have been 20.
questioning.
I'm sorry, 20. I'm sorry.
questioning.
Don, would you change that to 20? I was looking here at some of my figures. 920 is what I said originally. Yes.
I guess I can support your motion as long as we have an understanding that at some point we can revisit this and maybe go more, but to do the immediate stuff now, if you're willing to agree to look at more of it
Well,
later on.
you know, I don't think there's any doubt that if they have other needs, that they come back before the board to ask it. My biggest concern is we're putting out about 1.6 million today. We have a nursing home that is going to either have to do something. We have a courthouse that we're looking at needs repaired, and that ugly one out in front of us is that law enforcement center. You know, and we don't have enough money to do everything. Again, you are a taxing district, and I know you've tried, but the people of this county have got to wake up that the burden has to be, the people have to pay the taxes. I know that they claim the taxes are too high, that there are fewer people paying them, but that's really not true to county government because we're taxing the land, and the land doesn't change. There's the same amount of land we had 20 years ago as we do today. The valuations go up and the mill levies go up, and that's why your taxes go up. But the more demands on this county, we have no choice but to raise more money. And this county, unfortunately, cannot do it through sales tax like some of the large counties that are commercial counties. We just don't have it. One of the things that bothers me the most about raising mill levies is it hurts the vehicle the worst here in this county. I mean, vehicle taxes are extremely high when you go to buy your tag, and I don't know how you can lower those, you know, unless we lower the mill levy. But if we lower the mill levy, then we have less money to work with. But it's not been an easy decision for me. I don't like spending money. Maybe I like saving it better, but I think 10 years ago, this commission wisely put some money aside that we can meet these needs that are coming. Now, what we're going to do in the next 10 years to meet those needs, I don't know when we spend this money. But
Well, you're
that's
correct
where
on
I'm
that, because I can tell you, I paid, last month, paid the taxes on my wife's $22,000 car. The taxes on it were higher than your half section of grass, Howard. You believe that?
I would like to make a few comments because I do have a few concerns, and just the primary one would be, has there been any discussion if your proposal isn't 100% funded, which right now it's not quite because you're looking at storm shelters as well. Since we already talked about you not having the cash funds available to do something like that, what would be your next proposal? Because, and I'll just preface it with saying, in my mind, to protect the taxpayers, I can justify spending $1.7 million that you're only making 0.5% interest on, rather than trying to bond out $1.7 million for 4% or whatever it may end up being. So financially, from the stance of protecting everyone's tax bill, you're basically asking for money up front that then wouldn't be paid for over a long-term bond. But what would be the process then, if that is the total amount that you're able to get to do these immediate projects? Do you foresee anything in the near future that's going to be a massive dollar amount? And or if you continue with the plans for the shelters, what will be the route there? I mean, are we still looking at a bond on top of what we're doing is basically what I'm getting at.
If they get the grant for the shelters,
If we get the FEMA,
that's the big deal.
we will owe 200, our matching will be 200, I think I have that, $206,000 will be our matching, I have it in the presentation. That will be, we'll just kind of wait until we find out about the FEMA grant. We have exhausted all the grants that we know of for the storm shelter in this area.
I'm sure that we're gonna hear some grumbling about doing this, but it's actually a tax savings for the taxpayers, because if this goes to bond, they're gonna have to pay that money back with interest. This doesn't have to be paid back, so.
And 299, I'm talking for the board, we're not looking for doing a bond. I mean, we just do other things for grants and FEMA's and I call it Band-Aid measures, what we have to do. I mean, we do what we have to do, but we're not looking to do a bond issue.
I just feel like it would be poor oversight on my part to spend money up front and then not spending it on other things in the county where the taxpayers are going to end up paying for that long term anyhow, and then also them to be asked to pay for additional projects for the schools. And I think that the schools in the communities, for those who want the communities to stay in the smaller cities that we have, the 2 small cities that we have, and the few outlying that don't have any schools, unfortunately aren't benefiting from this, but they are in the sense that their children are attending these schools. And I can see that it's good for the communities to have, the solid foundation there, that they're not financially struggling.
I can't answer your other part of the question. That I can talk to the board tonight and bring that information back to you. But I don't know what their plan, if they don't get the FEMA grant, I don't know what they're thinking. We have no protection out at the high school. We looked at infrastructure, the locker rooms, and that was going to be, upwards into, we're talking $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. That's just not feasible. So I don't know, I can't answer that, but I can find out for you. I just don't know.
And then my last issue is not necessarily about the schools at all, it's for the commission. I believe that if we're going to continue to spend this money, we've allocated approximately $500,000 to the nursing home, we're looking at this a little over $1.5 million to the schools. I feel that there has not been a comprehensive plan for this money, and we haven't talked about what portion of it should be used to, go back into the physical proximity where this money is generated, and or what other infrastructure projects could be funded with it. And I know there were a couple concerns voiced about it reduces the amount of interest that we're able to spend on these smaller projects that we've been doing. Not that it has been a significant amount, but it has helped smaller community organizations receive some additional grant funding. So have you two given any thought to that, or how can we proceed to discuss that within the context of making a large expenditure out of this fund?
I think from the very beginning, the objective was to have $5 million sitting there to do things that came up emergency-wise. From that point on, that money was going to be spent on different projects throughout the county. As far as planning, how would you plan for them to come in with the needs that they have? I don't know how you can do a plan several years out when you don't even know what the needs are going to be. You could have some ideas on what you're going to do with it, But then what do you, when something like this comes up?
Actually, I think it's been very well planned because we were looking at a $5 million bond. Now we're talking about them having used some of their capital outlay.
I'm talking about planned into the future.
Yeah, well, they had, I
I'm
mean,
not
it's been a
talking
good
about their
year of
plan.
planning. So a whole year of planning goes a long way when you're talking about saving that kind of money. I mean, I think in 298, you ended up finding much better deals for the same types of projects that you were looking at rather than that comprehensive package that was being presented. You asked out of California, I think. So I would still like to see the board discuss future plans. I mean, I think that when it comes to our spending on our own expenses for the county, we have a long way to go to decide what exactly our infrastructure needs are. And I would like to see that be part of this consideration. I want to support the schools, but I also want to do my job and make sure that we're not going to continue to tax at the rate that we have been without filling some of those gaps that we've created with our own, I'll call it a budget deficit because it's not. I mean, I shouldn't call it that because it's not, but it seems like that because we're always saying that we don't have enough money to do our roads and bridges, and we're talking about having $5 million sitting is what the word he used. Those are my main concerns.
Is there any other discussion?
I'd like clerk to read the motion, please.
The eligible will submit to grant the wind power economic benefit fund $760,000 to USD 299 and $920,000 to USD 298 to improve air quality, environment, and students.
Thank you.
There's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is that,
I have to shake
you hear from,
Yep.
you guys,
Yep.
Thank you. Oh
Thanks,
my
guys.
gosh, thank you, thank you, thank
if
you.
you guys hear from
Thank
Dave when you
you.
come back.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Yep,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
right.
you. Okay.
Thanks again.
You bet.
You bet. You're up, Kelly, I guess.
Well, I just wanted to follow up with you on a discussion from a couple months ago. I sent an email last night, so I don't know if any of you had read it or not, but if I remember right, regarding the courthouse steps, John Pancost with Bluestone Quarry was here and basically said, you need to go to an architecture firm or somebody to do an assessment of it. He would gladly do the work, I think, but he needs somebody else to do the drawings and kind of direct him exactly what the best method of moving forward with the work is. After that discussion, I approached Trainer HL out of Topeka. I know them, so I felt like I could kind of ask them, like, just to get an idea of what an assessment would cost, because I haven't a clue. So I talked to him about the courthouse steps, both of them, and then also painting, because it seemed like that was a discussion point as well. And so they sent the proposal that I forwarded to you in terms of what an assessment would cost. And then they also included various steps throughout the project in terms of contract administration, construction, and so forth. So I wanted you to have that. For the assessment, they put it at $10,000 is what their assessment would be. And then if we wanted to kind of keep moving forward there, kind of each step, they had another number with that. But I kind of felt like really the top need is just figuring out what our assessment is. Once we have that, then we'll be able to have an estimate for what the actual work is going to cost, because that is not in here. So once I got this, I also talked to Katrina Ringler, who's the grants manager with the Kansas State Historical Society, to see, all right, so how does this fit into any grant programs, and to try and figure out what's the best way to tap into as much grant money as we can. And with that, actually, did you guys print? I have a copy of that proposal.
Yeah, I didn't print
I
it.
didn't print it.
Thank you.
Okay. Dawn, did you need a copy of the proposal?
Yeah, but I think it's.
So then when I talked to Katrina, I guess I kind of looked at, there's two ways to go about it. And one is, depending, if we want to move sooner rather than later, we might forego a little bit of potential grant funding to get things moving faster. If we wanted to try and tap into as many grants as possible, then we need to do the slower method, just because of the way the grant deadlines and everything are kind of
Once
phased
we
out.
start though, those other grants, the later ones would not be available to us. Is that what you're saying?
Well, there's two primary grants, and the deadline for those is November 1st is kind of the brick and mortar grant program. We could roll the assessment into that, but the problem with we can't, I feel like we really can't put a good application together for the fall until we know what the construction cost is going to be. And so it's kind of like we'll just be shooting a number out there,
Okay.
and I feel like we won't be able to put a very good grant application
Okay,
together.
that's what, we need the assessment in order for you to write the grant.
Right, that's what I feel. So that's why if we wanted to move sooner rather than later and apply for a grant for the construction in the fall to meet this November deadline, then we need to get the assessment done now. And it's pretty quick, because by the time you get somebody hired, get somebody on the job and everything, October, that we would need kind of that month just to probably put the application together. So we would forego a little bit of that, but at least we'd have the assessment done and we'd be able to apply for the brick and mortar construction grant in the fall. That would be, we wouldn't know whether we were awarded that until February of 2019, so then probably spring and the rest of 2019 is when we could actually do the work, if we get the grant.
Do we have drawings of the building?
That, I don't know if we have drawings
Because it
for
says,
or not.
it's part of their proposal for their service says that we have assumed that the county has drawings of the building that will be available. So that we do. Dawn says yes.
Okay.
Does that include because we're only looking at the steps, does that include the structure of the steps?
I would think so.
I mean, that would help with the painting square footage, but not necessarily with the scope of the steps.
I'm under the assumption that it would.
I think their construction documents up though, that they're 100 years old. And I'm
That
not
may
sure
mean they're
how
more
deep-
accurate.
Well, I'm not
than
sure
anyone would do.
I'm not sure of the detail on them.
I think they would have redrawn them when they did the handicapped accessible and when they also, so I'm assuming that yes, we would have.
And I'm just looking, I mean, construction documents, I think it says 22,000 if we were to have them do it. But I believe John said that for himself as a mason, he wouldn't need an architectural design for the rear steps because he felt like those
If those
were
would be
repair,
rebuilt,
they weren't
yeah.
reconstruction. But the front is what he was worried about. So I wonder if that would be a little bit of a cost savings for us if they're planning on.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the rest of this, the B through F, might be adjusted after we do the assessment. You
Yeah.
know, if we find out that,
I think the assessment is separate really from the construction
yeah,
documents. and stuff.
it could be that, you know, they look at things and it's not as bad as what we think it's gonna be, and maybe some of these numbers could go down. It could be that it's worse, and so, you know, they might need to go up, but,
We could do the assessment without contracting to do the architecture.
We can do A by itself, right?
yeah.
And when we get to the other parts, we could bid them out from this company, you think? Or will we have, if we go
Well-
with the assessment with this company, we would be stuck with them?
I think if we pay for the assessment, it's ours.
Yeah, I think it depends on if we wanna look at that as just kind of a separate piece. And then once we get that assessment, then maybe we can bid out the,
I think they're just basically offering to continue with the process, which would be to prepare all the documents and submit for bidding.
yeah.
I think the assessment is the first step, no doubt.
Well, I do too. I think we need to know what's wrong before we start
Right.
allocating money for construction and things.
The other option, I guess, if we don't wanna necessarily feel like we need to move right now on it, then we can sort of back off a little bit. In March, there's a historic preservation fund grant, which helps with planning types of projects. So we could get a grant potentially to do the assessment. Then, once we have that, then next, the fall of 2019, we can apply for the construction. So it's the historic preservation fund, the grant that could help with the assessment, that pays for 60% of it. So, I mean, it's not like we're necessarily saving a ton of money by waiting, but so it's kind of a matter of what's more important, speed or saving as much as we can.
I think we put it off for a long time because
I think I guess my feeling is that we've just awarded 1.6 million, 10,000. As I said, it looks a little small, it's money, but it's something that's been needed done for about 5 years. We have been kind of dragging our feet, wondering how we were going to fund it and what we needed. And I guess I don't, if we don't fund an assessment, how are we going to know what we need? I guess is my question.
You're saying waiting to do the assessment because of the grant cycle,
So,
not
right.
just the project. You're saying
Right,
the actual
right.
assessment.
So if we wanted to get grant funding to do the assessment, that grant isn't due until
November or no?
February or March. So we basically be putting off the whole project for a year. Because March would be the grant to apply for the assessment, and then you'd have to wait until November of 2019 to
do
apply
the
to
project
the construction, which means we won't be awarded, or know whether we're awarded until February of 2020.
I mean, I think the
So-
deterioration's there, but can it seriously not last one more winter? I mean, it's obvious, but if we're going to be tearing it all apart anyhow, I mean, what's one winter of expansion contraction for? I mean, what are the chances that we get 60% of this paid for?
I think we'd have some pretty good chances, especially, if we're talking $10,000, that's not a huge grant request. Basically, that's under 6,000. So I think we would have a pretty good shot. And I don't necessarily know if it's better to move faster or wait. I felt like this has kind of been on my desk for a little while, and I've been meaning to kind of get this back to you, and so I kind of wanted to let you know. And I don't know if you guys need to think on it, or with everything else that you're having discussed. And I didn't know too if you wanted to do an RFP to do the assessment. To me, this was kind of to help us at least understand what.
Yeah, it's a good flat rate to go by.
Right.
it's probably gonna deteriorate more by March, but I don't know if it's gonna deteriorate to where it's gonna be a hazard. And if they're gonna rebuild the whole thing anyhow, if it deteriorates a little bit more, I don't think it's gonna matter. So I think that
Can you go ahead and prepare what you'd like to prepare for this grant application for the assessment now, even though it's not due until the spring? I mean, maybe that would just
Yeah.
get us ahead of the ball so that that's already in motion. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
since it's so long, I'd probably wait a little bit until it gets a little closer, just in case anything changes or not. I also didn't know.
Do they have a time limit on their offer?
Probably, but, so I think if we waited, what we would do is we would apply for a grant for, let's say, saying the project cost is $10,000. If we're awarded, we could either talk to them and say, that we got a grant for $10,000, so are you guys still good? with that, or, I don't know if the state would want us to then bid out the assessment.
I'd like
Sometimes they
to-
do require bids as part of their
I think we
grants,
should be
so.
doing that anyhow. I think for any construction, we legally have to, for any construction project, whether it's assisted with grant money or not. But I look at it like this, I would like to see us wait and try to get some of that grant money since it's available and this is the purpose. Because, let's just say we have a local bid that's 6,000 higher than a bid out of Topeka. I'd rather go ahead and have us spend that money later on keeping that money circulating within our own borders. If we do have to choose a higher bid, I'd rather spend the money on that than the assessment. That's the way I'm viewing it.
That grant's due in March, and they wonder how long before they decide.
May, I think, is when. they
So you
know,
still have
so.
time to get the construction documents and stuff completed to go for the November 1st grant.
Yeah, I think that would be the goal, is to have everything, that assessment done.
I think with the assessment done, well, when would it be awarded?
The March grant would be awarded in May, I think is towards the
June,
end of
July,
May.
August, and you'd have to apply by November?
November
July, August,
1st.
September, October.
Yeah,
So it gives you about 5 months.
yeah.
That would
Which
probably
actually
be even enough time to bid out the rest of them.
It would, although it would be tight. I mean, by the time you end up just doing the contracts and stuff like that for bidding, you know, if you put it out there for a month, and then you need a month just to put a contract in place, it seems like, you know, 5 months really isn't a lot of time, but I think there would be, as long as, you know, if everybody knew from the beginning, the goal is to have something
Right.
ready to go for that next one. And I also didn't know if the North Central Regional Planning Commission, at one point we talked about if they would help apply for grants,
Right.
which they might be able to do. I kind of feel like if, I would just, Economic Development received a Historic Preservation Fund grant, so we were applied in March and were awarded in May, so I feel like I had
Fresh on it.
good luck on
Yeah.
that, my first shot, so I would be willing to help with that if the North Central Regional Planning Commission can't, or if they charge for that or something like that.
Could you maybe contact them and ask them if we waited until March to try to get that grant for the assessment, if that would be, if it would be a reasonable thing to try to have all the construction documents and stuff done prior to the November grant letting?
You mean if 5 months is enough time?
Yeah, if that is even feasible.
And by ask them, ask Trainer, or ask
Yes.
the
Yeah.
state, okay, yeah.
And if you would contact North Central Regional Planning Commission
Okay.
and ask about how much they're willing to do, or at what point does it become fee-based?
Okay,
Because we do pay into their budget yearly, so I don't know, besides informative information, I don't know what we get for that.
okay.
Dawn, do you have any input on that in the past, what North Central Regional Planning Commission has helped with, basically free of charge for administering any grant type help, or,
I think they've written up grants.
but do we pay a fee?
I wanna say, I'm not sure.
I think it's included in the grant, I believe.
We used to never, but then, like, we haven't had them write a grant for us for a while, so I don't know if they changed their policies. But like the fire district,
They charged
Yeah.
the fire district to do it, to help them.
I guess.
Sounds good.
If I can change the subject for
Yep,
1
sure.
minute, regarding last week's discussion with Doug Albin, can you guys meet, do a conference call with the Gove County Hospital CEO Thursday at, I think it was 10 a.m. There, we had two options for next week. I think one was Tuesday at 9 and the other was Thursday at 10, I believe. But since Tuesday's tomorrow, I'm thinking Thursday at
You mean this
10 a.m.
Thursday?
Yes, yeah.
And would we do that from our residence, or do you want us in the courthouse, or?
I can set up a conference call if you guys wanna call in from wherever
I
you
would,
are, just
I
to
would
make
like to
it.
call in, just
Okay,
letting you know ahead of time, but.
Yeah, I would just call
that's
it.
fine with me, I don't.
I could come in probably.
Yes,
Okay.
Thursday at
Come to
10
your
is what you
office.
have. It was either tomorrow
I
or Thursday.
just come to your office.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, that's fine. If you
10
wanna come to my office, you're
10
welcome
o'clock
to,
on
otherwise.
Thursday.
if you
10
wanna call in.
o'clock.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, what the, how's that, this Thursday?
this Thursday,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
The 5th.
All right.
Thursday the 5th, 10 a.m., we will be having a conference call with the administration of the Gov County Hospital / Elder Care. It is a nursing home facility, long-term care, I don't know how you.
Yeah,
qualify that.
Doug, after last week's meeting, emailed me back, it is a little different than our situation. It might be more independent living, which is maybe how they get away with it, but yeah.
And
the
not so
idea
much
is-
skilled care.
Yeah.
Is Doug going to be involved in the phone call or just the administration?
No, Doug will be involved as well.
And Steve Granzo?
Since I sent Steve an email last week, but I believe he was out of the office, so I have not been able to talk
I
to him,
think it's
but,
back now.
yeah, I think his email, automatic email said he'll be back on Monday, so I
Okay.
can follow up with him.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
Anything else? Okay, thanks.
So technically you need to call a special meeting for Thursday, July 5th.
I move to hold special meeting considering I don't want to say that, management of Lincoln Park, or
What's that?
combined management of hospital and long-term care. With a phone conference on Thursday, July 5th at 10 a.m.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a second. Is there any further discussion?
I guess technically it's an open meeting, so would that be the public is available to come to the courthouse and listen in on the audio conversation here, which maybe only one of us would be here physically, but, I'm assuming Kelly's doing it through her office phone, her office line?
I would assume. It is a public, it will be a public meeting, so.
Right.
Repeat, which county is this with?
Go.
Go.
Go,
Oh, excuse me.
yeah,
Go.
yeah.
At one time I heard it was Grant. I just-
No,
That
it's
was
not
me.
Go.
That was my mistake. I said Grant and I was wrong. The G was stuck in there and.
Very similar, thank you.
They have a
sorry.
little different situation. Theirs is an assisted living, which I think is probably going to be what makes the difference, but rather than a skilled care facility, so.
Does that mean they have a separate nursing home for skilled care that's not with the hospital?
I can't answer that.
Oh, I'm sorry, we were voting, or we haven't voted yet.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Smith Center did, I believe, have a 20 bed. I'm
Is
not
Smith
sure.
Center Grant County?
No, Smith County. Grant County is Ulysses.
Okay. I don't know why I had that stuck in my head.
Is that the county that just sold or something?
Yes, yes, that's right.
Way out west.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think there was something, was the one in Cheyenne County, St. Francis?
I don't know.
There was somehow county involvement in that one, but I don't remember exactly what the deal was.
While we're on the nursing home topic, I'm going to make a motion about this. I move to reject the submitted bill from Lincoln Park Manor.
morning? Guys ready?
for cleaning the air conditioner,
Condensers.
excuse me, the condenser coils. Due to the fact that their contract says they have their own maintenance. And I just did that for my own business, so I don't really think that we should pay for it for someone else's business. That's not part of my motion though.
Do I have a second? Motion died for lack of a second. That leads to,
Yeah, is that their budget request, or what does that mean?
that's the second half payment. They paid in
From last year,
2
okay.
Yeah. That's the second half payment.
Morning.
Good
How's
morning.
everybody
Morning.
today? I really don't have much except for show you the tablet, how we use that. Figured we'd say that to the end.
Good,
Bob's got a couple things we're gonna discuss though.
good.
We want an evaluation on him and see if we could put him in charge on the bridge, give him, kind of make him over the other guys, so a little more responsibility, stuff there.
Can we review an evaluation in open session?
Probably not.
Is it satisfactory? Is the evaluation satisfactory? So you're just wanting to promote him to the bridge foreman?
Yes,
Is that correct?
if we can raise him up to the foreman deal, and I don't know about
Who,
the wage deal.
did you do the evaluation? Okay. I would move to enter into executive session for 5 minutes. Under employee, non-elected personnel. For consideration of promotion.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Who's in this section?
Oh, excuse me, commission and, highway department. I move to approve the promotion of, does he go by Jess or Jesse?
Either one.
Jess
Jesse,
Zacco,
either
Jesse
one.
Zacco. To bridge crew foreman. With the rate increase of $1 per hour. I'm sorry?
Effective date.
I would do.
Do we wanna do the first of the month?
Well, we
pay
do pay period. We need to do pay period either last week or
No, would it be,
I mean, if you wanna do it today, we can do it today, I just have to remember to split out.
okay, that's fine.
well, what would be the middle?
I would say-
15th? Do you do,
I would just do July 1st. Or July 2nd.
well, but if he hasn't, well, okay, well, today is the 2nd, so. That's fine, effective today's date.
I have a motion on the floor. I have a second. second. Is there any further discussion?
Could you read the motion for me, please?
Alexis Wood move to approve the promotion of Justin Zacco to bridge crew foreman with a rate increase of $1 per hour effective July 2nd, 2018.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And I guess the main thing I had, I've been hauling chips out there, stockpiling, for getting ready for seal later on. And like I said, the boys have been working on some pipe, replacing the ends and putting some back together. It's separated and stuff like that here, trying to stay off the road as much as we can. So everybody quit running around with the harvest. And they pretty well, I need to go around and check, but I think we've got most of the new signs lowered down. Hopefully they're where everybody can get over. There's still some of them they tore up that we had lowered down already, so.
Yeah. I guess, Bob, I think Jeremy told you that we had a truck go off a culvert or off the end of the driveway, and we kind of messed your road up a little bit, trying to get it back on the road. I think he told you that Mr. Sutton probably needs to go over grade. It's nothing too bad.
Yeah.
Also, we did put some more fill on the end of that driveway. It's just a plug. So we put some extra dirt. We couldn't get, the truck was too long to get out. Well, he didn't get over far enough. Probably. But,
Yeah, know
I
he
made a
said
few
it's-
marks. I made a few marks with the tractor trying to pull him out. We finally had to have a winch come and winch it back up on the roads.
Yeah, I know he said something there, and I didn't quite catch all of it.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
he said something that he kind of messed the road up a little, and I had him go check on it today, so.
It wasn't anything too bad, but if you see extra dirt there, that's where it come from. We
Okay.
took it out of our field and filled it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's like most of them around there, they just, everybody's going semis down, it just wasn't made for that.
I had a question. Have we addressed the compilation of the concerns coming into the department? Because was it last year or at the beginning of the year? It was last year. We had approved the complaint form that I think you had gotten from Norm Bowers. And it was registering the date, the time, who called in, what the issue was, and then, how it was to be addressed. And I did a request for the complaints to see where we are in that process, and it's my understanding that the department is not recording them. I've also had several people come to me and say that they've made continuous requests over the past few weeks, month, 2 months, with very little follow-up until they physically come to the premises and find one of you. So how are we recording these complaints then if we're not using the sheet that we approved?
Who's continually been coming in or complaining that made that request to you?
You want to answer my questions first?
All complaints get wrote down.
Where? Where? Because
So
when I
this
ask
keeps
for
the
them, they're
sheet.
not there. There's
We went
just,
through and give you a whole list of all the
you
complaints.
made up that list?
The ones I
Make it
had,
up.
Liz had one. I think there was over 500 there last
Yeah,
year.
there was no date, there was no person who called in, and there was nothing to say whether it got done or not, or who was gonna do it. So, but the sheet that we approved for the department to use had all of that information on there. So, my question is, I guess, why are we not using the sheet that was approved by the commission?
We're gonna use it, or we're gonna use this?
That's
I don't
for,
think we need
that's,
them both.
that is for the operators, for the employees of the department to input things. I'm talking
Well,
about,
who's gonna go out and repair the complaint?
I'm talking
The
about
employees of the
how
highway
we're
department.
recording who calls in or who comes in or who who registers their concern with the department over any particular issue.
Isn't it going on now?
All of them are wrote down that are called in.
Who's writing them down?
Well, if I'm not around there, Michael, Liz, got a notebook up there, she keeps every call that comes in wrote down.
So,
Who called and the date and the time and all that.
But
And if
Michael-
I answer, I'll take them, write them down.
yeah, do you write them in the book that she keeps?
No, I go.
So we have
notebook like-
several different places that all these things are being stored.
Well,
Michael
she'll-
brought in that
She'll
sheet.
answer the phone and hand it to me, and she'll write it down, and then I'll make a note in my book so I can keep track of it.
Likewise.
Michael brought in a sheet to fill out that he got from the engineer that works for the Kansas Association of Counties. Where did that go?
We used it for a while and it just kind of became cumbersome, I guess.
Well, apparently it wasn't used at all because I never received one and I asked for them.
Like I said, we'll give that list of them 500 or so deals that we had wrote down to you.
Well, I think maybe what needs to be understood is that when a Cora request happens, which is open, everything in your department is open record. So when someone makes a request, you have to give originals. You can't just make a new list that's compiled in your own handwriting or typed up by the secretary based on the information that you accumulate in several different areas. The Cora request is for the document itself, whatever the original document is. So I'm gonna redo my request and I'd like to see the original documents, because if I get another piece of paper that is just someone's compiled information from multiple sources, I'm going to be concerned, and that's why I'm bringing it up now. I know you guys don't like when I sound concerned about things, but to anyone else that's listening, when we find out that we have several people writing things down and it's all in different places and nobody can find it when it's asked for, that's a poor reflection on us.
We can find it when it's asked for.
I didn't receive it.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I asked for,
Well, I wrote down my personal notes,
yeah, that's,
and that's my stuff, not yours.
no, actually, everything that you have that pertains to the county is an open record, just so we're clear on that. But when I ask for a Cora request in writing, it's legally that you receive the original documents, and I asked for the complaint forms that Michael brought to the commission for approval. And we approved them, and there aren't any, or at least I didn't receive any. So they are either somewhere or they're not being used, and that's my question, why they're not being used. I mean, it's you brought them, so why
And we
are
used it for a while and we kind of decided we didn't.
you kind of decided you wanted to go back to the situation that we're in now, which is where several different people are writing things down in different places.
Well, if they're not in, she's gotta write it down, because they can't very well write it down when they're not there.
Yeah.
So you're always gonna have it in separate places.
Where would you suggest I go to talk to about culverts then? Who, do I talk to multiple people? Is that what I'm supposed to do?
You call into the office and put in a request.
And it's, I'll go again then.
Are you saying you've made a request prior?
I didn't write anything down on a form. I did not have a form to write on.
But you
I
made a
just
verbal request.
Verbally spoke and gave a map.
There you go. There's your answer.
You talk to who?
Lady in the office, outside the shop here down the street.
Talked to her out on the street when she wasn't in the shop. Is that what you said?
Then Michael's office. I talked to Michael about a couple of spots too. Same ones. Now, my sons may have talked to you, Bob, about the same ones too. It's not anything real important. We figure, well, we can just tear it up like it is or dump in some stuff where we want to get the trucks around or whatever, but we reported it. One spot, there was a red flag that did show up.
Yeah.
The day after I was in here.
The intersection up there is that one.
Yeah, 90th Road and perch or,
Perch or
Wire.
green wire one.
yeah. That was marked, but that was all that ever happened. It,
Yeah, I marked it and like I say, we don't always get every one of them just
Yeah, I
right
don't
away. We try to
understand
work
that.
when we're in a certain area and stuff.
I just understand that, but I didn't know if are they still on record to be accounted?
Yeah,
The
right.
question is, where is it written down and who has it?
I said in my book.
And
That's
you
the
have-
only place that it exists.
You have 90th and Rye Road written down, show me, 90th and Rye Road.
And while he's looking for that, Michael, on bridge, I was thinking number 67.
Okay.
Are you finished there?
No,
Okay.
we got the north side completed and we're waiting for them to get done with harvest traffic.
Okay.
And then we're gonna go in and complete the south side.
Okay. And did Tanner go out and take a look at that since the work has been done, or how
Yes.
is he interacting with that process?
He's observed it.
He went before and then he went after. And, okay. Have you made any decisions about investing in any rock upstream to curtail some of that backwash, like the swirling that's happening, that is wider than the bridge area itself?
Yes, Tanner and I and Bob, we all went out and looked at that after last meeting when he was here. And we went back and did some aerial photography history looking and have decided that he says that there's no imminent issues, that it's not necessary, that we got a lot of other issues that'd be a lot more important than that. As far as what could affect our right-of-way is not really an issue at this time. You know, I guess what I don't understand is when you say upstream, you know, how far are you talking? He didn't seem to think that there would be a need for anything more than what we have, you know. Within our right-of-way, it is armored with rock.
Okay. Now this is only on my phone and I have a cracked screen, but I will get you some pictures compiled on my computer here. But this marshy side to the south, the water that accumulates and sits and then when it's flowing actually creates a stir, is wider there than the bridge foundation, and you can see it there.
Yeah.
So, and that is to the west and above where that little pile of rocks exists. So I'm saying if you rocked in some of that bankside, you wouldn't have this washout that's happening. I mean, there are cattails growing there because it's so moist. And that seepage that's happening all the way around like this behind the structure of the bridge is a form of deterioration. And if we don't take care of it now, it just becomes more of an issue in the future. I would agree with Tanner by saying it's not an emergency situation, but why would we neglect it when we already have machinery there and manpower there? This is the other side, where that's the curve that comes from the west on the north,
East side.
and it has widened. According to everyone who lives there, drives past there, I've driven past there for several years myself. It is continuing to widen. There are no rocks. There's a little pile on the south. There are no rocks on this. You can see the deterioration in the bank side.
Under
I
the-
shouldn't say
yeah,
no
Under the
rocks.
silt, there's
You're
rock
not
in it.
looking, there's all kinds of rock in there.
It's
The
silted in.
deterioration is visible right there with the actual silt building and moving, and then the cutouts. It's not a smooth bank line, so you can
Some
see
of
that.
that stuff they just put over there, working on the bridge, that you're calling silt. It's what they dug out.
No, these pictures are before you ever even got there. The bridge is closed when I took these pictures several weeks ago, Bob.
Well, I guess the engineer and Bob and I,
Here you can
our
see where it's
decision,
cut out clear to the actual fence gate.
That's what I told you last week. It's
Tanner's
off the county
opinion, my
right away.
opinion, Bob's opinion is not to do any additional armament at that location at this time, but if the board would like us to, we will armor it while we are there.
I would think that if you had the manpower and the equipment already located there, that to order rock, which Does Quartzite provide large rock like that?
They have shot rock, yes.
Do we know what the pricing is on that?
I do not off the top of my head.
Well, here's a picture of what's there, okay? I'd say it's a pile about this big. You know, I mean, it's deeper than that, but let's say it's about. And you can see just where that bank, there's like the marsh that it's creating. It's creating a marsh.
It's vegetated
back
and it's
behind
not eating the vegetation away.
Yeah.
Those cattails have been there for years.
It's been growing there for years and years.
So if we continue to neglect it for years, someone else will pay for it later.
I think we pay an engineer to look at things like that, and if the engineer says it's not an imminent problem, it's not an imminent problem.
He said it's not an emergency. That doesn't mean you don't fix it right to begin with, so you don't have to go back at all.
But it
Why would we want to go
said
back?
he looked back to old aerials, and they hadn't come back in about a foot in 10, 15 years or better. So it ate back in there.
While you're looking there for that spot, right there on that road, we provided gravel and put on it, and somehow our grader does not want to grade it. It's okay to skip it part of the time, but it looks like you ought to grade our gravel once or twice a year rather than just doing the dirt road a half mile north and on. It's unbelievable, but I guess what we need to know is it our responsibility after we put gravel on there to maintain the road? We have a grader, we will take care of it, but we want permission to fix some of these entrances to the fields and do the road work. Can we do that?
No.
If we cannot do it, I think there's definitely a fault with the road department on not wanting to do it for us. Now, that's a problem.
Well, let's find
You
this.
helped-
Let's find this complaint or
You
this
helped-
issue.
You helped us, last year, we had one spot, and they did put a tube in where, yeah, the water's not running now this year, but, we got that fixed. Did that right away. But at the same time, there are other areas that we reported that haven't been done. And so, how long do we wait before we're supposed to do it ourselves?
Like I say.
If I was you, I'd be a little careful what you do yourself. I can tell you that right now.
We made a nice road where we put the gravel, very nice.
Can we find and verify that we even have this on record? That's a good place to start, I think, to defend our department here.
I can fill out a form again and start over if that's what we need to do.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that's my concern. You know, we don't have an organized filing system to which anyone has access at any time, which is how it's supposed to be, so that we can keep track of where we are with our projects. And if your project is not a priority, I understand them saying that. They're telling me that, you know, reinforcing the embankment of a bridge that has yet to deteriorate isn't a priority, which is fine. You know, if they're going to make those types of decisions, we judge them on that later. But if we can't even find the paperwork to begin with, this is where we need to start with correcting that, which is what we did last year by instituting a form that Michael brought in that he got from the engineer upon his suggestion. I mean, I had talked to Norm Bowers, the engineer, prior to that and asked him, how do you keep track of these things? And that was his suggestion. So we're still not doing that.
If he's on our road, I don't know about it.
What?
I said, if he's working on our road, I want to know about it. I wouldn't push me if I was you, Howard. You go out there on that road and start doing work.
This was back when Larry Meitler was in charge of the roads and gave permission to have the graders come and we put our gravel on the road.
No, I'm talking about if you're out there blading our roads.
So would you like to give instruction to the highway department to correct the issues he's talking about then?
I don't think they're purposely skipping his road any more than they do any of the other roads.
Like I say,
I don't think he's suggesting that. He's
Yes,
saying,
he is. That's what he just did.
He-
He just suggested that.
he's saying that he has noticed that at times they've not done that gravel portion and they've done the dirt portion. Isn't that what you just said?
That's correct.
North, I think you said, the dirt road to the north?
So which road is being skipped?
90th.
put you gravel there and by the railroad tracks, see there?
Yeah, we need some more gravel on the railroad track too, if you want to fix it like the other places, just cover the railroad track up. We haven't done that yet. We dumped a little bit there, and we'll put some more there because the rail sticks up too high. Who's supposed to take care of that? The railroad?
In theory, yes.
Hmm?
In
Yeah.
theory, yes. Their right of way is their responsibility, but they never do anything, so we try to do the best we
Yeah,
can.
you done good on down towards Peterson's there. That's as smooth as it's ever been for the track to start up.
Yeah.
I commend you for that.
It's, dealing with the railroad is a sensitive situation, as you're aware that, you know, over the years, blading across tracks, we have derailed a few trains in this county. And it's not that we do it on purpose, but it does happen. And
Yeah, it's
very
definitely a
hard
danger.
in rural America to maintain these tracks when the railroad, they have no funds to deal with it either, you know, so we.
And there's so many crossings.
There is a bunch. It's tedious and it's challenging for the operators, I will say that. But we can take a look at it and see what we can do to help the situation, but I'm not guaranteeing that we can make it as perfect as what the other locations may be.
Well, at that one crossing, there's cement, tubing or tiles, whatever you call them. It just needs another section on each side of it, and a little more dirt, a little more
Across the
gravel.
road or across the railroad?
Well, that just, on down at 90th and Rye is what I was looking for.
There at the
That's just-
intersection?
That's just up the road from that. Less than a quarter of a mile apart where they started with it. Now you have to look to see. I just would like you to have, I think it would be to your advantage, to the county's advantage, you might have 500 forms or whatever, but you need people that are not satisfied with what's need to be done, need to be recorded some way, instead of just verbal over the phone for the 3 different locations. It's gotta be organized better. Maybe never get done, but you need to have it organized. right.
You can bring it in and write. You can bring it in and write it. Other people do.
Terry, the conversation is that we've had this discussion, we already instituted a form. So it's not there. That's.
I didn't say a form. I said he could write it down and bring it in.
Mary Powell wrote hers down and I haven't heard hide nor hair from the highway department and she wrote it 2 months ago. And she wrote 2 letters. So do you have that written down?
I have the letter.
You have so you have the letter filed somewhere, but it's not, but you didn't write down that area in your book.
They prioritize things.
So where do you go to look for what area you're in? I would say if you're up near Mary Powell's, then you're up near where he's talking about that you have written down. So do you have one piece of paper that, like even a map that says these are the X marks the spot for where we've received these letters or complaints?
Based on what the complaint and stuff is, how serious and what it is.
So, Michael, you're the head of this department. What is your suggestion about this situation? I think you're seeing this unfold in front of us, that we don't have an organized system here. How are you going to fix that? Because it's your responsibility.
There's a difference between your perception of organization and ours. Because we're not doing it the way you want it done, you foresee it as not being done properly. We have found, and Bob, I believe, does a pretty good job of it, of keeping the stuff in his books.
Do you have a note about 90th and Rye? Where is it? Where is that? Because he can't find it. So do you have it? Who has it?
Not with me, I'm sure I put it down on a piece of paper and gave it to Bob.
And sometimes that's
might
Might be
not
one
have been
reason
there
I
in there
can't
yet.
find it in here.
You know, most of the
Michael gave
times
it
when
to
I
me
get
here,
something,
look.
I will pull up an aerial map, I will write a description on it, and I will flag it, and I will pass it on to Bob.
Flag it on this program?
No, an aerial map, printed aerial map.
So you don't use the mobile 311 program to flag these complaints as they come in?
No,
So the report that you gave us has about three to five people in the department using this as a flag, but you use an aerial map separately as a flag. You use your book. Liz has papers that she keeps when she's on the phone. Then you get something and put it on paper, then hand it to him on an individual piece of paper. I mean, here we are in the same conversation again, and you're telling me that it's my perception? I don't
Just
think that
because you
sounds
think
right.
something ought to be done a certain way, doesn't mean it works. That's
The
what
whole
he's trying
reason
to
why,
say.
Terry, the whole reason why Michael O'Hare brought in the mobile 311
and
program,
it was a poor, it does not work the way we were hoping it would work.
you just said you're not even using it.
If it's not working, I guess you don't do it.
Have you ever used it? Your name's not in here.
Yes, I have used it.
Where is what you've logged?
Probably completed. There's a lot of jobs in there that we have not went in and put completed, and you don't see the completed on that report.
I don't see your name in here anywhere. No, I see absolutely nothing submitted by you. You just said 2 minutes ago that you don't use this, that you print out your own
I don't
aerial
now.
map.
Started out, I did.
So if you're so dissatisfied with the program, why have you not come to the commission and said that we have contracted for this program and it doesn't do X, Y, and Z, and that we should be talking to the company about that? Because you brought this program in, even though you've told everyone that it was me somehow. You brought this program in to us, right? Or did I? Did you or I? I don't remember.
I can't recall either.
You don't know?
It's been quite a while ago, but I'm pretty sure I brought it in.
That's right. And if we've looked up in the minutes, you presented it to us and we signed a contract for the internet before we even started using it. And you said you needed a few months to figure it out, and it's been about a year. Now you're saying all of a sudden a year later that it's not you aren't using it, it's not
I don't
working.
think this is the first time it's been mentioned in a meeting that we didn't much care for it, and that people have not been using it. I
People
think
have
that's-
been using it. I see tens of inputs here.
And how far back was they?
There aren't any dates, Bob. I wish I could tell you. There are no dates on this paperwork.
But like I say, I don't think hardly anybody's using it like they did to start with. Everybody jumped out there and started, and then it just died down. Nobody was using it anymore.
We're not using it anymore, we need to do away with it.
Once in a while, not somebody, but I haven't seen anything really lately.
Well, if we can't even find what you just told us you had in your book, how can we make this work? This seems very advanced. If we can't even,
He
if we
said
can't
if it
even
was
keep
something
track.
Michael gave him, it probably
I
wouldn't be.
gotta
in
say-
it.
No, he asked him where it was and he said it was right in his
I
book.
thought I had it in my book, but like I say, I get some of these papers and I'll get some of them on my desk, and every so often I'll go back through them and transfer them over to my book, so it may not got transferred over here. And I know, because I set the flags up there he's talking about. I had the flags, I set them.
Okay, so Michael, you brought in this program that now you don't like. It's your responsibility to create some cohesion here. So what is your next suggestion?
Is that a yearly contract or what is that?
I believe it was a 2-year contract on the tablets and yearly on the 311 program.
I had told you that I talked to Mobile 311 and they said they offer training. You have yet to bring them in so that you can educate everyone on the program that we're paying for. So what is the reason there?
Kind of a generation gap in the technology.
Well, that would be the purpose of the training.
Do you guys have anything else? you have anything for us, Don?
I kind of do, yes, but I forgot to put myself in the agenda, so.
No, I think we can go have you. It's not even 10 o'clock. Would you like to show us the tablet that you brought in and show us why it's not working?
This is the screen the operator sees. You touch what you want to do. If you want to work on right away, touch right away. If it's going to be the road or the ditch, click on one or the other. If you want gravel, you'll touch the gravel. Pulls up screen there. If you're at the location, you hit the geo button. If you're sitting at your desk, you type in the address.
If you hit the geo button, it marks it on the map according to where your internet locates
It
you.
automatically brings in the address. Either way, it's going to put a mark on the map with that address. It brings up 247 East Elm. And you manually put in your description of what you would like to do, what needs to be done. If you choose to attach a photo, you can attach a photo to it. It takes a little bit more time to do that. If you use the photo program within the 311, you get a very grainy photo that's so pixelated it's not even worth looking at, so you have to exit out of here, take the picture on the actual camera program that's on the tablet, and then you import that picture to attach to this. It's a little bit more work, but there's a couple guys that have caught on to it, know how to do it. Everybody else has been told how to do it, they just choose not to.
But you can take the pictures first on the tablet, then open your record.
Vice versa, all you gotta do is tap a button and you can switch in between them.
And it uploads it directly from the tablet into the program.
Yeah.
So you type in what
And your,
So you
des-
need
and your
gravel?
description, you know,
keyboard
and
comes up and
Yeah, I have one here, like for example, on
Okay.
East Deer, it says culvert on corner is plugged, needs to be cleaned out, for possible new one installed, will need
I can
backhoe,
see
motor
why
grader,
pencil and paper.
etc. You can see why what?
Pencil and paper for me would be easier.
To write it down, then
Yes.
type it?
Yes.
You don't know how to type.
Not on that kind of a typewriter. I can use a keyboard, but I can't use a, I'm not very good at texting people in case you want to text me. Be careful what I write back, it may not be nice, because I may hit the wrong button.
So you're saying the picture program within 311 is granulated. What else is wrong with it that you said it's not working?
the willingness of the employees to enter the data, correctly enter the data, and it gets very time consuming as far as trying to log it and track it, you know. If they put it in there, sometimes there's been a few employees that have went out because I'm guessing maybe they didn't want to do something else, and just spend an hour or two snapping pictures of, say, a road sign that needed some new bolts put in. Why would you do that instead of just getting out and putting some bolts in? You know, and it created a lot of work there where they felt if they put it in the tablet, somebody else would come do the work for them. You know, and I don't know how they got that
We're taking
perception.
pictures of signs that need a bolt put in them, instead
And
of sticking a
entering-
bolt in it.
And
This
then,
post had broke off, I think, but I'm not sure whether the sign's on it or not. You know, that was just looking out the window, stuff like that. Nobody really got out and checked, and, oh, I'm gonna put a post and a sign back here. They wrote it on here and sent it in, expecting somebody else to come do it for them. See too
Are we
many of
talking
those.
about putting a bolt in a sign that lost one, or are we talking about replacing a sign you said broken off?
Both, like I say.
Okay, well, a couple weeks ago, you told me that if anyone needs a sign, they have to come through you. If anyone in the whole county needs a sign, they have to come through you. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't they expect to put it in and hear back from the person who they have to go
The sign is
through?
laying there, they
The
don't
sign's
need it.
right there. They don't know, they just looked out the window and they don't know whether it needs a new sign or a new post. They didn't even check.
So which one of you have explained to the employees what their job is?
That's in their job description. It's been explained to them. You know, we just wrote up new job descriptions, passed them out here a couple months ago or whatever. So it's in that job
Well,
description.
I
That's what
actually,
they're supposed
in
to
all
do.
the records I have here, I don't really have anything about signs. Most of them are referring to gravel and branches that need trimmed, ditches that need done. And you actually told me that as well, that any ditch that needs pulled, they have to go through you. So why wouldn't they put it in the system and get a response back from you? What, how's that creating more work? You told me that's the protocol, that they go through you, any ditch that needs any 811 call or anything like that. Trees, you organize all the tree trimming, all the ditch cleaning. That seems appropriate to me. If I was on my route and I said, oh, those trees need trimmed and that ditch needs pulled, plug it in and I'd hear back from you, right? Because you're overseeing all of that.
Well, they'll let me know, yeah, I'll do that, but some of that is their responsibility. They shouldn't have to call in, they're just gonna trim a tree. I shouldn't have to go out there and tell them, okay, trim this tree, trim this tree.
If you're doing
They're
complete tree
supposed to have a
removal and stuff like
responsibility
that,
according to
yes.
their job description. Them slapping their grader windshield, they ain't got enough time to stop, get out and saw it off, cut it off, or go get a pickup and come back with a saw and clean it up on a rainy day or something. I have to
So-
tell them to do everything. Their job description said they're supposed to be responsible for that kind of stuff. When I was on Blade, I seen a sign down, I stopped and I got out and put it up because it's a safety concern if that sign's down. Somebody has a wreck or something.
So if you guys are really concerned about what these people are doing while they're out on the job, maybe it's time to give them your expectations. It sounds to me like you're expecting them to just read their job description and then know whether they're supposed to call you and get permission or not. I mean, some weeks you tell me that they have to get permission to do anything. I mean, you just told me that you're gonna hire a bridge crew foreman who's not allowed to make any purchases. So, given that mindset.
All right, you guys, go do your jobs, it's enough of this crap.
Why is it
She'd
crap?
sit here and badger on you all damn day if you sit here and let her.
And I got enough try to keep straightened out and stuff.
So we're just going to continue to ignore the fact
Let them run
that
their
we
damn
have-
department, you don't run it. You wanna run every damn department in the county, then quit whatever you're doing, come to work here full-time and run the department. Otherwise, if we're gonna hire these guys to run it, let them run the damn thing.
Thank you, Howard.
We'll adjourn until,
Don has
Don needed to say something, Your Honor.
I have not received an official resignation yet, but Deborah will be leaving me. I really believe you guys need a full-time administrator. Just gonna say. And if not, then you need a full-time human resource officer. And I would propose that you, if you don't think that you want to go the administrator route, that you go with a full-time human resource officer and you move it out of the county clerk's office. I believe that they can have more than enough work as a full-time job. There are probably things that could be worked on now that is not because of the kind of time constraints in our office. It's more than what she, we'd originally budgeted for to begin with. Because I have them as being a half-time and she's barely getting to work on our stuff, which is falling behind, which causes me to work evenings and weekends, and quite frankly, I'm a little tired of it.
What are her responsibilities as clerk assistant rather than HR?
We do elections. Currently, we're doing payroll, because payroll was a formerly clerk's thing. I would suggest that payroll come out. We're still tying in with ambulance. At some point in time, I really think that you guys need a full-time ambulance director and that the ambulance stuff go down. Now, mind you, we've pulled the billing out, but we still have prior billing, we still have accounting work that we have to do.
What accounting are you doing for the ambulance department if they're,
When they're collecting their money, all of the statements are coming. The only thing that we lost is the billing aspect of it.
sending out the
actual
bills, not
submitting-
the receivable? Or
Yes, the actual submitting the bills to the insurance company. We will receive the money, we will credit the accounts. The auditor is telling me that I need to have all of their accounts on QuickBooks to be double checked for the firm that is working, that we still need to track all of the ambulance runs and the income coming in. And then after their 3 collection efforts, it comes back to us to collect and to turn to set off. So there's still an aspect. I would say probably half of the ambulance time has been taken out of our office, which was somewhere around 22 hours a month, although that really wasn't sufficient enough time to get billing done because we were behind on billing. I can make a list of everything that my office does, but quite frankly, we do a lot. And
But what about just a list of what you would like to transfer to the HR?
okay,
Do you-
I can do that.
You know, that way we could have a better, clearer picture. If we're going to be hiring someone, I think we need to have those expectations ahead of hiring, not just throw things on them after they're hired. So I would still like to see a list of just everything that HR should be doing, payroll, et cetera, employee
Okay.
information, and whatever from the clerk's office can be transferred to that position.
I would suggest that this position be removed from the county clerk's office. Number one, I feel like sometimes the department heads feel like when they have to come in. So my suggestion is if you guys aren't going to use the commissioner's room anymore, that we will clean the election equipment out of that storage closet. The filing system can go into that storage closet, or foyer, or whatever you want. Cloak closet is what they formally call it. And then the office be set up there to have their own. And then I feel like the department heads would maybe come and actually utilize the HR person a little bit more often, but when they have to come into our office and speak or remove, it kind of takes out. But that would be my suggestion. I can.
Could it be HR/administrator type some duties? I guess I'm a little unclear of what type of administration duties that you foresee that we need.
An administrator in most counties normally take over the budget. They also act as the liaison between the department heads and the commissioners. So if you had an issue with a department head, you would talk to the administrator would work that out. They normally are in charge of the HR department, where they are responsible for all HR actions, including insurance. You know, you guys are wanting to broker out or consider different health insurance. That is beyond the scope of our capabilities. I don't think that people realize the amount of information that they ask for. They will want to know every employee, every dependent on the plan, what their date of births are, what kind of usage they use. It's huge, the amount of effort. So it would be best for us to go out to a broker. We would have to advertise and figure out how to reach out for a broker, and then the amount of work just for that aspect is probably going to take months in order to do. It's not a one-time deal. I know we need to work on the handbook. You know, your administrator, I don't know if you could get an administrator that does everything, but you probably could.
Well, it almost looks like you not only have administrator, but you're going to have a clerical staff to do some of the nuts and bolts and then we're talking money. You know,
But I think we're talking about two different things. If you define a full-time position for HR, that's one thing. If you're talking about an administrator that acts as a liaison, et cetera, first of all, they have no business having all that HR information on every single employee. It creates a bias. And second of all, that's just one more step removal from the public if the department heads don't have to show up to a public meeting. I mean, we are elected by the people, and their job is to oversee that we are managing our department heads. you put one more step of bureaucracy in the way of that, and it's just a convoluted buddy system, as you guys have been called, what is it, the good old boys?
You called us that, so. you oughta
No,
remember.
that was actually given to me here by many people that live here.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I'll show it to you, Terry, if you want to see it
Now is just the
sometime.
time to consider changes.
Right, and
what
I'm
the-
not,
what the
I
changes
understand what
go
you're
through.
saying about the HR separating from clerk's office, I understand all of that. I'm saying if you're trying to combine that with an administrator for the whole county, I don't see that working. Especially when you're describing how much of a workload just the HR part is going to be. And there'd be a conflict of interest there, having all that personal information about every employee and then trying to be the administrator on a supervisory level, in between who they're reporting to and who hires them. I think that's a convoluted situation that we don't want to create right now.
Most administrators are over the top of the HR departments.
Yeah, that's scary. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want the person who reports to my boss knowing everything about me personally. I mean, that creates a situation that's not professional. It becomes personal at that point. I don't agree with that as a philosophy, period, but.
Well, most counties got an administrator, they're over every department, regardless of whether it's HR or whatever, it's under them.
But they're not necessarily doing the HR work, which includes gathering.
Well, I don't think one person, like Al just said, they'd have to have a clerical staff of some kind to do that. One person's not gonna do all the administration and the HR.
Well, it's our job to do the administration. I mean, that's what the panel is for. If
Not if you
anything,
hire-
instead
not
of
if
an
you hire an
administrator, what we need is
administrator.
a 5-commission board. I mean, that would be more efficient than an administrator. A 5-person commission would be much more efficient. You could have committees of 2 people. You could, have additional meetings where you're actually bringing information to the board and we're not sitting here waiting for information to come to us.
Well, that way we could each represent, 600 people instead of 1,000.
Well, you could
I
split
think
up all the
there's a
city votes.
I think there's a limit to it. I mean, once you go to 11, and then we could all have 200 people.
You can't. You can have 3, 5, or 7, Terry. According to the state. But yes, if you would please bring us the list of what you think their duties would entail, that way when we advertise, we know what we're looking for.
I really think you could make it a full-time position and be beneficial to the county, honestly. It's just how I feel. But I also see the department heads coming in.
Hannah is full-time hourly, not salary.
Right.
But Deborah is full-time salary. But her hours are split between what she's doing. But some of what she's doing, you're saying, for the clerk's office is actually part of the HR role.
Well, let's just be honest.
Because
with you.
payroll-
She's not hardly doing anything for the clerk's office because most of it is what I would consider would be turned over to HR. Before we had HR, we were responsible for payroll, accounts payable, the budget, setting the levies. I tend to do most of the real estate. We have to change real estate transactions. And so we had a full-time person doing accounts payable and a full-time doing accounts payable, or payroll. Since then, we've got the ambulance dumped on us, we've had landfill dumped on us. They bill out, but those
Billing,
girls are spending
collections.
more time on those services than what we're actually billing them for. But they just don't worry about the 5 minutes here, the 10 minutes here, the 20 minutes here.
Can I ask you something? The landfill, when there was a landfill personnel, and then, it's my understanding, there was one other person under landfill. It wasn't just landfill and noxious weed out there like it is now, correct? There was someone.
They used to have a full-time secretary that worked between landfill and noxious weed.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
So-
That came to the clerk's office, is what you're saying.
Billing came to the clerk's office.
Is the treasurer by statute not able to do any billing or receivables in that
Nobody,
sense?
I believe, has ever asked them to do it. It always is asked of us. And quite frankly, I always feel like I can't say no.
Consideration there, it's 2 full-time staff in there, correct? Under the treasurer, 2 full-time And do they do any billing or accounts receivable for any other department?
Not that I am aware of.
Only for their own expenses, which are pretty minimal in quantity. I mean, not numerics, but
They do
in,
the
in,
motor vehicle for the state of Kansas,
Right.
driver's license for the state of Kansas, and then tax collection for Lincoln.
right.
I'm sure there's more things that they do that I'm just not aware of. Sometimes I think, why did I run for this job? Maybe I should be running for that job.
Grass is always greener on the other side of the fence.
I know.
Until you taste it and then it's sour.
I thought I was well aware of what I was getting into until, you actually do it and you realize how much work it is.
When is the last time the ambulance director was doing all of their own paperwork?
Since prior to Wendy Grinnell,
Is that 2 ago?
two full-time
Sue,
directors.
wasn't it Susan was her name? So Brett, Susan, Wendy.
And then
Those
there was,
3 have not. Have they all been part-time, those 3?
The 2 were full-time.
The 2 women were full-time and they still weren't doing the paperwork? Why is that?
They were not doing the billing.
That's what
Because
I'm calling, I'm saying, why should anything come
when
through
we
your
went
office?
when we went to a full-time director originally, they were responsible for the billing. And then there was a nightmare with that, and she wasn't actually doing the billing. So it got brought back up to us. Originally, we did the billing until when they had a part-time volunteer ambulance service, the clerk's office had always done the billing. When we hired a full-time, that was the one thing that they were
Then they
going to
came
take
back.
over.
Okay.
Yeah. We have had attempted prior to that of having the attendants come up and learn how to do the billing process so that they could do the billing process, and let's just say that was a nightmare. They just sat there the entire time and you would try to show them how to do things and they were like, I don't understand why we're doing this. Why do we need to do this? And so it was very frustrating. To do the billing, you really have to have consistency, and we've established that we don't have the education that we need in order to do it, so you've done the billing process out, but you still have the accounts receivable process. And yes, they are keeping track and they are sending invoices, but they will send 3 invoices, and then when that is done, then it comes back to us to collect.
When we hired this Delisa's, have we passed off everything that was, what did she say, 6 months or a year she could do prior?
She started whatever the contract was, and then they were gonna go back to January. And I think they're going to go back into 2017 for me to help me,
Okay.
once we establish where we are at for billing wise, so.
Has that been 1 month or 2 months? That's
That
been
they've
2
been
months.
starting?
Yeah.
I wanna say it was the end of April, wasn't it?
I think the 2
So-
months, that would be 2 months. So have you happened to see any numbers just to verify what the efficiency is there?
I've received some reports, and the transition in the billing cycle, and then we have the transition with Medicare to get revalidated. So once we get going with that, then we should start billing. But we have received some income in, so hopefully. And they have been sending me the reports. I've kind of looked at them. I just haven't really printed them all, but I need to. 'cause you
So the
guys
ambulance is its own fund, and basically whoever does accounts receivable only needs that fund to do the accounting, right? There's no crossover between general or anything like that.
So basically, like when we are doing their billing or receiving their accounts receivable or answering any questions, we should be earmarking our time and billing them. To be honest with you, I think the girls' rule of thumb is if they haven't worked on it for half an hour or more, they just don't. But we spend an awful lot. I mean, Hannah bills out 7 to 8 hours a month on refuse. But there is a heck of a lot more that is being done than that. But I can't just sit there and say, we will bill her every minute. It's kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul anyways. I will come up with a list. You guys will need to decide, if you could decide by next Monday, whether or not you want to go with it full-time. I will try to get you emailed out information so that you can have some time to think about it. But that would be my suggestion, partly because I feel like there are needs for human resources not to be in an office where there's 3 people present. I think employees would feel more comfortable coming to talk to people if they knew they didn't have to come to the office to ask to talk to the person. So it's my personal opinion.
Does that mean you will be seeking a part-time person to replace the part-time hours?
I believe I still need a part-time person. I mean, is it, I don't know what the word for it is, but is it unkosher for me to ask to not have to work weekends and evenings just to get my job done?
No.
Or the responsibilities of my office done?
Well, when the job continues to grow, as it seems apparently has, it's time to hire workers to do the job. No, I do not think you need to be working nights and weekends. Or the pay we're paying.
I mean, I don't know where the skew occurred between all of the offices and how it happened, but, and maybe that's my own fault because we've said yes. I mean, we said yes to refuse billing. We probably should have never said yes. We should have probably made you hire somebody that could do office work and operate the landfill. We probably should have said no to the ambulance billing and made you hire somebody that could do both. We're trying to be a team player, but we just
We're trying to
Can't be
keep the
anymore.
costs down as low as we can. That's what we're trying to do. We've been doing that ever since I've been here. We've been trying to not hire more people. I mean, because that's where the expense is.
But it comes
Labor
down
is
to responsibility. I'm being ridiculed for wanting to see responsible management of the highway department, which is our biggest portion of the budget. Yet here we are talking about other departments that don't even take care of their own internal paperwork, and we're throwing it off on, it seems like, the switchboard of the entire county is, pretty much how your office is operating. And I understand that is frustrating. You don't have time to thoroughly do what you need to do if you're doing it for other people as well. And that comes full circle to the conversations we've had about a full-time director at the ambulance and what that means. I mean, from my calculations the last few months, on 4 to 5 shifts for what we're paying the director to be a 24-hour station, we're paying less than that for one of our EMTs to be there 7 or 8 shifts. So, financially, you're talking about not hiring more people. We need to look at where the money's going and how it's being spent and who's responsible for what. If we don't have that clarification, we can't administer the money properly. But I think we can start with a list of what you would like for HR. And we can look at that list and say, yes, this constitutes full-time, or we could start part-time and see who's capable. I mean, there are people out there that have good clerical skills, like yourself, and don't need a lot of prodding to get their job done.
I will email this out to you guys, and then we'll come back and visit Monday, and then hopefully figure out what we can do to advertise for the position.
Good.
Thank you.
Did Deborah give you a time frame?
I'm still at August 7th,
So we'll need to do that next week. Decide on putting an ad in and what the ad's gonna say.
and I'm okay with, I'm not afraid of work. Hopefully I've demonstrated that.
You're not afraid of work, Doc.
I move to hold a public meeting prior to the budget to receive public input on our decisions for expenses for 2019. Hosted by the commission. Special public
I'm
meeting.
sure we'll have several public meetings. Every time we're in here, it's a public meeting. Do I have a second? Motion died for lack of a second. We'll adjourn until 8 o'clock on the 9th.
Are you asking me if I found that lawsuit?
You have, Michael knows, I talked to him, and he wrote it on a map or something too.